Hello, and welcome to this corporate courses guide on acing the interview. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks that I've learned and some things that I've kind of figured out over the years or through many interviews on how to better myself or how to give myself the advantage when going into an interview. So let's go ahead and get started so I can kind of start explaining what exactly I'm talking about. So when I think of an interview, I think of two main things. I think of outside the interview and inside the interview. Outside the interview, I think of what can I do pre and post interview that will help give me an advantage for the interview, but also inside the interview. So what can I do inside the interview to give me an advantage while I'm there? So let's start with number one, and what can I do outside the interview to help give me that leg up, give me that advantage? Well, when I think of outside the interview or pre-interview, I'm going to research obviously a lot about many different things so that I can be well prepared for the interview. The three ones about the company that I would say are very important, you can probably guess them already, but are the company, the position that you're going for, and also if you know this information, the person that's going to be giving the interview for you. And so I would say these are three very main important things that you can help you understand a good picture of the company, who you're going to be talking to, the position, so that you can kind of understand it before going into the interview, and you can talk towards basically tailor yourself towards what position you're going for. And so I would say in touching on these three main things, when researching the company, I basically just do a real basic research by Googling them, trying to find their website, trying to find just different testimonials maybe on them, just to see what exactly they're all about, why they do what they do, what drives them, what their passion is, how they do, what their process is, and how their company works. This will give me just a big picture idea of who the company is and just how everything works. Then from there, I go a little bit smaller and go into what position am I going for and how does it fit into that company. So I will search the company name and the position title, and many times Glassdoor or something like that will show up, which is super helpful as long as and some other sites may pop up as well. Like sometimes I've seen blogs pop up, stuff like that that's talking specifically about the interview. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work for some mom and pop shop. They probably won't have this kind of information online about them, but for a lot of the bigger companies that I've interviewed for, a lot of them always have this. And so what you can see with this is you can see what is it about the interview that stands out? What do people say about the interview or the company themselves? Or one of the big things is there's two main types of interviews. There's going to be more or less situational interviews and basically just interrogative interviews, so asking questions. So situational is going to be more trying to judge your leadership style or how you would fit into a certain situation, what you would do if something happened, say an emergency or Bob and Sarah weren't getting along, what would you do? So they're going to ask you a lot of those questions. That's why you research the position itself, because oftentimes people will post on these websites, hey, this is the questions that they're going to ask you, or that the interview is more situational, where what would you do in this situation? And then obviously the other one is more traditional interrogative interview, where they just ask you questions and you answer them. And so this will give you a little bit of a leg up to understand what you're going to be getting yourself into when you get to the interview. Now from there, if I know the information, or I'll try to find out the information of who I'm going to be talking to when I'm going into the interview, this will give you a huge advantage, because obviously many people have said, many big name people in the self-help industry have said, or in sales, it helps you understand that a company it's not one big person. People think of Microsoft or Apple, they think of that it's just like one big person, or when they blame them, they blame Apple. It's as if it's one big person. Well, a company is many different people that have many different views. So if you can basically find a way to tailor your interview towards the person that you're talking to, you're going to definitely get that advantage, get that leg up in the interview. And one of the things when I'm researching the person that I'm going to be talking to is obviously I look at their social media, like their LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram if they have it, just any different kind of thing that I can find about them to kind of understand from their perspective. But one thing I think that's different about me than maybe some other people is that what I'll do is about a day, probably a day or even the day of the interview, but normally the day before the interview is I'll log into my LinkedIn, and if I know where their profile is or that they're on LinkedIn, is I'll go search for their profile and click on their profile while I'm logged into LinkedIn. So why does this matter? Well, when you're logged into LinkedIn, if you use it at all, you understand that if you're logged in and you click on somebody's profile, it will send them a notification saying that this person viewed your profile. Well, the reason I do this is more or less maybe because I'm more confident and I don't mind doing stuff like that, but I want to send the message clear and full to them that I'm researching not only the company, the position, but also them, like the person that I'm talking to, because they know that they're going to be interviewing you. And so when they see that, this is just kind of my perspective on it, but when they see that you're looking into them and that you're looking into who they are, that you're definitely somebody that's more enthusiastic about the position, you want to learn more about it. And so that's just kind of one thing that I do. You don't have to do that, But like I said, it's something that comes off a little more stronger in my perspective, but obviously you don't have to do that. And so those are the three about the company. The last one is about yourself. Understand yourself and how you can fit into the company. You've obviously got done researching everything about the company. And so make sure that you know your resume and yourself inside and out. Make sure that you understand it as a story. Don't understand little fun facts about yourself. Understand how your resume flows, why you went from one job to the next or work experience or why you did something and what it means to their company. And so basically when doing this, it will help you to kind of like tell that story to them rather than just saying, hey, fun fact about myself, I used to work at this place. So it helps the interview flow a little bit better. So from there, we go into what you can do while inside the interview. So now my personal perspective on interviews, what I like to do is I like to try to make it a conversation as soon as possible. Many traditional interviews or interviews at all, they're designed with a list of questions that they're going to ask you and that they want to find answers for. But obviously, if you just sit there and you just answer the question, then you stop, then they ask you another question, then you stop, it doesn't flow very well, and it doesn't put off a good picture about yourself, about who you are. And so what I like to do when I'm forming that conversation with the other person is it helps form a more familiarity with the other person and something that where they can relate to you, because once it forms more of a conversation and it comes more natural, it feels like they're just talking to you, that they're just talking naturally to you, that it's not just they're there to ask you a list of questions then you go home, because that's very unnatural. We don't have conversations like that as people. And so I like to form a conversation as soon as possible. Obviously, I'll keep it towards me. If they're trying to ask questions about me, I'll talk about myself, but I want to also find a way that I can connect to them. If they say something about themselves, I'll talk about, oh, hey, well, I know a little bit about that. How do you find that fit into your experience with the company? But yeah, I'll try to ask questions like that to kind of get them to open up a little bit and form more of a conversation and less of more an interrogative, like police interrogation, basically. And so when you do that while you're in there, once you're kind of done with the interview just inside in the basics, basically from there, what I'll do is I normally end the interview with two main things that I have. The last one is once they're done, they will oftentimes ask you if you have any questions. This is where the research that you did on the company comes into play. That way, what you can do is you can ask very tailored questions or questions that make it look like obviously you research the company, that you're enthusiastic and you want to know more about the company. You want to make sure that you ask questions that don't seem like, what does your company do? They don't want to hear that. You want to make sure that you ask questions that show that you research the company and that you're looking more into it. And basically what this does is it just shows enthusiasm or your enthusiasm for the position. And so from there, once you ask the questions, I would say the last question that I normally end with is basically, do I have the position? Again, this is another strong thing that I do, that it's oftentimes where it doesn't bother me to ask questions like that, but you don't have to do this. But I would say I do it more or less to show them, hey, I'm serious about the position and I want this job. And many times it comes off in a good light to the person and shows that, hey, this person's really a go-getter. This person really wants the job. And so when you ask a question like that, you don't have to phrase it exactly like that, but especially if you know that you're going to have 3 more interviews with other people inside the company, you can say, hey, do you see me as a good fit for this role? I want to know straight up. And basically put the ball in their court and say, hey, what do you think? And sometimes it will throw them off and they'll be like, oh, wow, this person is very serious about this interview. And so that question kind of ends the interview on a strong note. And I would say the other thing that I do is many times I'll have something that I want to give them or some way that I want to contact them. Or sometimes if I don't have like a letter of recommendation or something that I want to send to them outside the interview, I will just ask for their contact information, and just so we can keep in touch, and just I'll word it that way. And what this does is, what you can do a day or 2 later is you can send them a note saying, hey, I understand I researched the company and you a whole lot, and I understand that it's not easy for you to take time from your day to come talk to me. So thank you for taking the time to come talk to me, and basically make sure that you form it in a way where you're thanking them for taking the time to come talk to you, but you're also stating something about that you liked about the interview. Say something very specific that say, hey, or even something that where you and them related. So let's say they graduated from the University of Florida. Well, mention something about your conversation about the University of Florida. Say, hey, I thought it was cool that all the stories you told about the University of Florida and how it fit into your job here at the company, and it really motivated me to be driven to like this company and want to pursue this position even more. Just something that shows that your note is very custom and very tailored to them. And don't don't make the big mistake of searching on Google like thank you letters or thank you notes to give for an interview, because you can tell right away when you read them that it's very structured. It sounds like a script. It doesn't sound like you even tried. And so make sure that I know some people aren't good at writing letters, but make sure that you put in the time to write that letter and send it to them via email or something that's a lot quicker the day or two afterwards. I know that it used to be where you'd send them a thank you note snail mail. You can do that as well in conjunction with the interview or in conjunction with the email. But I would say make sure you send something that's going to get to them right away, because if you send it to them snail mail, they most likely made the decision already, and it's going to have no effect on whether you get the position or not. And so that's kind of something that gives you that little leg up and helps you to connect to them and show that you were paying attention during the interview, that you liked the interview, and that you kind of understood the connection between you and them. And so that would be kind of the last thing that I would ask, or the last thing post interview that I would do to help give me that differentiation between me and everybody else. And so if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know down in the comment section, what do you use when you go into an interview? What have you found that's been an advantage for you, or what did you like about this video? And let me know also kind of like what else do you want to learn about? Because I'm looking to create more content and more stuff like this, and just kind of like self-help and more business oriented. And so let me know down in the comment section what you thought and what you want to learn about. And thanks for watching, guys, and tune in next time.